Have you ever wondered how a land so rich could become so poor? How a continent blessed with gold, oil, diamonds, and the fertile soil became a begging bowl in the global market? There is a saying in Africa, when the lions don't tell their story, the hunters become heroes. For too long, Africa's story has been told by those who came to take, not those who lost everything in the taking. The year was 1884, and somewhere in Berlin, far away from the dusty roads of Lagos, the mountains of Ethiopia or the rivers of Congo, a meeting was held, not to discuss peace, not to plan progress, but to cut Africa into pieces like meat on a colonial table. This was not a meeting of Africans. It was a meeting about Africa without Africa. A gathering that divides over 10 million square miles of land among strangers, like men sharing stolen bread. And from that table of greed began centuries of pain, confusion, and the division that we still live with today. Today, we will dig into what really happened at the Berlin Conference, not just the politics, but the consequences. We will walk through the story of how Europe drew lines that cut through tribes, family, and the dreams, and how those invisible lines become visible wounds on African soul. But I promise you this, by the end of this video, you will see that the Berlin Conference was not just a historical event. It was the seed of Africa's modern struggles with unity, governance, and identity. You will also see that the solution does not lie in rewriting history, but in reclaiming the pain to write our future. So stay with me, because this is not just history. This is the untold story of how we lost our voice and how we can find it again. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you own a large family house built by your ancestors, full of memories, songs, and sweat. One day, while you are asleep, strangers gather in a distant city. They take out a map of your home. With rulers and pencils, they draw lines through your kitchen, through your living room, through your father's farm. They say this part belongs to Britain, this one to France, that one Portugal can have it. And when you wake up, your brother lives in another country, and your cousin must show a passport to come to the family meeting. That, my friend, was Africa's tragedy. It was called the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, convened by Otto von Bismarck of Germany. In that cold European winter, the destiny of African continent was rewritten without her consent. 14 European nations attended, not one African was invited. They carved out boundaries without understanding languages, tribes, or culture. They said they were bringing civilization, but they brought chains, guns, and the flags. And the sad irony, the people who claim to bring order sowed confusion that still burns across Africa's borders today. The first act of the Berlin Conference was deception in diplomacy. Europe didn't start by saying, we want to steal Africa. No, they came wearing masks of trade and peace. In fact, King Leopold II of Belgium, for example, claimed he wanted to civilize the Congo. But behind that smile was a heart soaked in greed. Millions of Congolese died under his rule, their hands literally cut off for failing to meet rubber quotas. This was not colonization. This was commercial exploitation wrapped in a moral disguise. The Berlin Conference legalized robbery, turning plunder into policy and greed into governance. As the saying goes, when a monkey is to be shot, the hunter first called it a nuisance. That was what they did to Africa, lapped her back to justify their invasion. Then came the lions, the borders, straight, unnatural, and the cruel. Lines that divided the Yoruba across Nigeria and Benin. Lines that separated the Somali people into 4 nations. Lines that cut through families and merged enemies into one state. These artificial borders created nations where people shared no history and they broke tribes that shared everything. That's why decades later, when independence came, Africa inherited division, not direction. It is like inheriting a house that is being split in two, with one room burning and another flooding. The colonial masters left, but the scars of Berlin stayed. On our maps, in our languages, even in our minds. Then came the politics of control. Europe may have left physically, but mentally and economically, Africa was still chained. The same nations that divided Africa began to decide who would lead after independence. They trained leaders loyal to them, not to their people. They left us with the foreign systems that did not fit our culture. Western democracy planted in unprepared soil. And like a seed planted on a rock, it sprouted confusion instead of unity. We began to speak their language more than ours, study their history instead of ours, and they chased their approval instead of our progress. We became, as Chinua Achebe said, a people of borrowed dreams. But here is the truth. The Berlin Conference did not end in 1885. Its spirit still lives in how we tread, in how we govern, and in how we see ourselves. The division was not just geographical, it was psychological. We were taught to trust the foreign more than the familiar, to compete instead of cooperate. And so, even today, Africa fights Africa, Francophone versus Anglophone, tribe versus tribe, brother versus brother. But the real enemy was never the man across the border. It was the border itself. Yet, in this truth lies hope, because what was drawn by man can be erased also by man. The walls that divided us were written in ink, not in blood. And what history divided us, unity can rebuild. So, what can you, as a viewer or a dreamer, proud African, do today? First, learn your true history. 2, do not let textbook written in foreign lands define your identity. Read the works of African historians, storytellers, and elders. Know where the rain began to beat us. Second, build bridges, not walls. Collaborate across borders, business, culture, art, and the innovations. Africa's future will not be built by isolated nations, but by united minds. Thirdly, speak life into Africa. Stop saying this continent can't change. Words are seed, plant hope. If Europe met in Berlin to divide us, let us meet in spirit to unite us. And finally, mentor the young. Teach them not just who colonized us, but how we can rise beyond colonization. What are the solutions to this? Imagine a new conference, not in Berlin, but in Accra, Nairobi, or Lagos. Not to divide, but to unite. Not to share land, but to share ideas. A gathering of young Africans from every corner, engineers from Ghana, innovators from Kenya, writers from Nigeria, farmers from Malawi, all saying, this time we speak for ourselves. That is the African we can build. That is the voice Berlin tried to silence, but still echoes. If this message tells something in you, don't let it die here. Hit the like button, not for me, but for the message. Share this video so others can learn the truth about our past. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. What parts of the Berlin story shocked you the most? Follow and subscribe to this channel so we can keep digging up Africa's buried stories together. You can also get a copy of my book, Carved Without Consent, for a deeper journey into this truth. The Berlin Conference stole Africa's voice, but today you have one. The question is, will you speak? Because silence is also consent. If we do nothing, we repeat history. But if we rise, learn, and unite, we can turn the page that Berlin wrote for us and start a new chapter written by Africans for Africans. So I leave you with this African proverb: until the lions learn to write, every story will glorify the hunter. It is time, my brother, my friend, for the lions to learn to write, and that lion is you. Thank you for watching this video, and I believe you have learned something today. Please, if you have learned something from this video, don't hesitate to share it. Share it, let it go viral so that Africans will know their history and know what they're supposed to do. Thank you for watching this video, and please share it.